Hello, everybody. Welcome to From the Sidelines. My name is Noah Tyree, and I'm here with Chad Davis, Devin Davis, and Josh Duvall.
How's it going? How's it going?
And today, we're going to talk about some sports. Feel free to follow us on our Instagram and Twitter at the FTS Pod. Don't forget to subscribe to our iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube accounts. And send in questions or comments to us at theftspod@gmail.com. For our mailbag segment, we do every other week. As we mentioned last episode, be sure to join our NFL.com Predict a Pick contest group, with the group name being From the Sidelines. The link can be found in our Twitter. And let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, to kick things off, the final season premiere of Game of Thrones was on Sunday night. What do you all think?
Oh, I was very excited to tune in, see what was happening between Jon and Daenerys. I thought the introduction was a little slow, a lot of dialogue, but it culminated.
Hey, Devin, guess what? We
what's
don't
up?
care about Game of Thrones. We care about Tiger Woods. Chad, what do you think about that?
Well, Tiger, I mean, what can you say? Just wow. I mean, after all the injuries he's had, and with his back especially, like he had spinal fusion and came back and won the Masters. And on top of that, all the scandals and struggles he's been through, to come back after 11 years since his last major victory to win his fifth Masters, it's just amazing. I'm really happy for him. And also, one last observation I have: he has the whitest teeth I've ever seen.
You're not kidding, man. Let's put this into perspective for you all. Let's go back to 2008, the last time he won his Masters. Andre Johnson was leading the league in receiving yards in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins had won the AFC East. Matthew Stafford wasn't in the league, and Plaxico Burress shot himself in a nightclub. Also with Larry. And Larry Fitzgerald also lost in the Super Bowl that year, which I don't want to talk about because that's a crime. But that's for another thing. Doesn't that make you feel old?
That does. I was going to say that does make me feel very old. I remember that game vividly.
I mean, on Sunday, what's it got to be like to be Molinari, where you're playing right alongside the best player of all time, in my opinion, going down the 16th, 17th, 18th fairway, just in the presence of a living legend.
Either he was purposely trying to throw so Tiger would win, or he just did the ultimate choke job.
I mean, he had that one shot in the water, which was just atrocious.
I think it was just a big choke. That water shot was just awful, and that just allowed Tiger to get hot, and he just took over.
It was definitely a heartfelt moment. A lot of people across America were heavily invested in watching Tiger, wearing red on Sundays, making the comeback. It was definitely a powerful moment in the world of sports.
I completely agree.
It takes me back to a simpler time. It really does.
Can we all make a unanimous vote that he leaves his hat on?
Oh, yeah.
That is
the hairline.
Unattractive.
That hairline's left back in 2008. Where
it's it's definitely worse than LeBron's.
Goodness gracious. Moving on from the Masters, let's talk about this first round of the playoffs so far. Guys, what has been your favorite game throughout here so far?
My favorite game had to be the Warriors' 31-point choke. That was a debacle of a performance in the second half. Lou Will caught fire, couldn't be stopped. Landry Shamet hit the clutch three to put him ahead in the last 30 seconds or so. Nothing better than tuning in, seeing KD foul out on a moving screen, see him whine a little bit, just KD things. And it was great seeing the Warriors choke.
I love seeing KD whine. It's like he just started doing that ever since he signed with that team.
Oh, yeah. If there's anything that the Warriors are good at, it's blowing 3-1 leads, whether it's 3-1 in the finals or 31 points. But I really enjoyed watching Danilo Gallinari in that game and Patrick Beverley playing against KD. I'm just going to say this. If the Clippers pull this off, I will buy a Pat Bev jersey.
Agreed.
We'll hold you to that.
All right, I will. I will wear it the first episode I'm able to.
I love the Patrick Beverley getting under KD's skin the entire game. It's just phenomenal. I love it.
Well, when you let 12-year-olds get in your head on Twitter, imagine what somebody like Pat Bev's going to do to you mentally. Just that doesn't. But honestly, somebody who's getting some unsung praise amongst a lot of folks here is Montrezl Harrell. We all are Kentucky guys here. We'll be the first to admit that. But this kid from the Ville is no joke. He's just not.
Oh yeah, he put up a double-double, 25 and 10. Not to mention those 2 clutch free throws at the end of the game.
Absolutely. And he had free throw trouble in college, so he's really making up for those problems. And I'm really proud of that man for it.
As far as the Warriors go, though, I can't really deny that Steph Curry had a really good game, putting up 29 points. He did his best to keep the Warriors in it, but
also Steph Curry was the one to miss a shot to put him ahead. So
True.
They just went cold down the stretch.
Kevin Looney, though, he had 19 points. Kevin Looney.
Yeah, he filled in nicely after they lost Boogie in the first half. He definitely stepped up, tried to do his best Cousins impersonation, but just wasn't enough.
How sad is that Boogie injury, by the way?
It's so sad. I can't believe it.
Come on now.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with my $5 million I signed for 1 year? I wasted my career. Man, that's what you get. I'm sorry. You wish injury upon nobody, but when you go to pretty much collude the NBA league to a degree where you're getting 70% chances to win an NBA title, you deserve what you get. Sorry.
That is quite the response from a UK fan there, Noah.
UK or not, that doesn't excuse you from making very.
Well, my thing is he was playing in his first playoff game and gets hurt. Plays one half and gets hurt, and he was just using this year to prove that he was worthy of a big contract for this upcoming offseason. I don't know. My heart breaks for him.
I think he should have just stayed with the Pelicans. Him and Anthony Davis would have been they were like an amazing front court, and they could have been even better.
Well, I didn't know torn Achilles makes you go insane and makes you think to go somewhere else. Because you're exactly right. They had something completely special there with Drew Holiday, with all these surrounding pieces around them. They had a complete shot at getting to a Western Conference Finals team if they made the right moves.
All right, moving on to another game. What do you all think about the game one where the Magic won?
Hey Josh, how was your DJ Augustine? What was that you said about him? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble remembering. What's your comments?
Here, let me reiterate that for you. I said that I didn't think he was a playoff point guard, but
he hits game winners in the playoffs. So
yeah.
And then 30 minutes of gameplay, he gets 25 points, 6 of 6 and 2 rebounds with the game-winning 3. What are your feelings about this?
That was a career night for him. Calling it, it's not going to happen again.
Whatever you say, Josh. Whatever you say.
Who else on that team is going to do anything besides Vucevic?
Well, Aaron Gordon had a double-double with 10 and 10.
Barely.
That's something contributing.
Evan Fournier had 16 points. He's a good shooter. He can pop off at points and really give them a good offensive presence.
Well, Michael Carter-Williams in 18 minutes got 10, 2, 5, so he was doing his little thing off the bench.
No, Michael Carter-Williams, that's a good one.
That's a good joke.
Come on, guys, give him some credit.
Not gonna lie, I didn't even know he was on a team.
But as far as the Raptors go, Pascal Siakam, my boy Spicy P, he had 24 points and 9 rebounds. He had quite the game, and so did Kawhi with 25 points.
No. But are we going to really talk about the gem of that game? And everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, MVP.
Lowry.
He was atrocious.
He's just picking up playoff form. That's what Kyle Lowry does in the playoffs. He's just returning back to normal.
He literally scored 0 points in game 1 and shot 0 for 7 from the field.
In 30 more minutes of game. That's unacceptable. If I was Nick Nurse, I would have taken him out the next game and not started him. But you do you, man. You do you.
He was a lot better in the second game. He had 22 points and 7 assists.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly,
But
I'm not really opposed to that idea of him being like a sixth man for them because I thought Fred Van Fleet had a solid game. He had 14.
That's something that's always been up for debate, though. I feel like Van Fleet, if he was given proper playoff minutes, because it's not his first time anymore, he would do a lot more production starting wise than Lowry then. I think it is time for Lowry to switch a role. I really do.
I don't
I
know
think he
that
would
you.
be a good sixth man, honestly.
I just don't know that you can pull your floor general off the starting lineup just off of a unfortunate track record of playoff success.
Well, he's also taken a dip this season, I think. The more talent they get with Kawhi and Pascal, I don't think he really is shining as much as he used to.
I mean, he still had a plus minus of 11 and 30 in games 1 and 2, respectively. So I don't know that it's necessarily Lowry that's the problems for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, moving on from the Raptors Magic game, let's talk about PhoneGate. Now, for anybody that's unfamiliar with what PhoneGate is, it's when a smart bench player that doesn't get a single minute into the game takes out his phone with his team down. Guys, what are your thoughts on Amir Johnson doing this?
I see no problem in it.
If you didn't see this, you have to be living under a rock, based on how blown out of proportion ESPN and Doris Burke is specifically calling the game. I mean, he was an inactive player. He has a really sick daughter, assuming that's true. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but I believe that, yes, his daughter was very sick. And I don't know. I know it's a bad look having your phone on the bench while you're losing, but I really don't see a problem with it given the circumstance.
Well, I don't know which is worse. Amir Johnson with his phone out. Doris Burke making it a big deal on live television saying, well, we all know what that is. That's a text message. Or
Oh my
ESPN
God, it's a text message. I cannot believe he's texting.
That is
Exactly.
a cell phone.
Or ESPN making this news. I don't understand what could make this such a problem. I
think probably the one thing that caused the story to gain traction was the fact that Embiid was involved. I mean, when your star player is sitting on the bench, I feel like maybe that might be a reason that they've kind of highlighted the story.
Yeah, but he wasn't even the one. He didn't have the phone in his hands. He wasn't texting. He was just looking over his shoulder at the phone. He was doing nothing.
Well, the way I was told this is that it's during competition, and regardless about what the text messages are about, you have to understand that, and it can cause distractions to not just you, but your team. And to the degree, I understand that. But I'm also the same person that puts family over sports, and I always will. So if it's about your daughter, you take out your phone, dude.
I agree completely.
Yep.
And one of their counter arguments was that if it was really that serious of a situation to not even be on the bench, stay in the locker room, whatever. But he wants to be on the bench supporting his team. I don't know why he can't do both. He's inactive. He's not playing. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. All right, and on to the next game. I think we should talk about Game 2 between the Pacers and the Celtics. I think that the Pacers definitely blew a lead to the Celtics, and Kyrie came up really clutch. What do you guys think about that game?
I thought the only real productive, or at least came off as productive player for Indianapolis was Bogey. I think that's unanimously agreed. His 23 points came at a spark time. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. He hit a couple clutch threes there at the end. Those were the only points they scored in the fourth, but
he was trying to single-handedly hold that lead, and it just wasn't working. Kyrie just took over.
Yeah, no, Kyrie went crazy. He had 37 points.
Well, not only him, but Tatum had a game of his own. Between him and Tatum, they had 63 points combined for the whole team, which that's music to my ears, really, because he's only 20 years old.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one person that I think didn't have a great game offensively, but I think he contributed on the boards and defensively was Al Horford. He only had 4 points, but I think defensively and on the boards, he destroyed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just plays smart, gives a lot of effort. Kind of a gritty, grinded out player.
All right, now let's move out to Portland, where the Thunder and Trailblazers play, with the Thunder losing by 20. What do you guys think about that?
Well, you can't play 30 minutes and only score 5 points, Jeremy Grant. And you just can't. And 30 more minutes for Terrence Ferguson and only scoring 7. You can't get this amount of production from the players you count on most, other than your big three of Adams, Westbrook, and George, and expect to win a game. You don't.
Didn't I tell you guys not to sleep on Portland? I something told me. I just had a bad feeling. I was like, I think Portland's gonna come out strong.
Well, it's probably because last year they got destroyed in the playoffs, and now they have a chip on their shoulder and want to make it out.
But at the same time, I shouldn't have doubted you because the Thunder did lose to a rookie last year.
That's a good point.
Right.
You're exactly right.
The Thunder have just been really cold from behind the arc this playoff series. They've been in the teens as a team, 3-point field goal percentage. Kind of concerning, but hopefully when they get back to OKC, they'll correct that.
It's been abysmal. Their first 2 games combined 3-point shooting is 10 for 61. That's literally 16%. That's not good.
And in game 2, they shot 5 of 28 from 3 at 18%. That's awful. Really, the only shooting that they have on the team is Paul George, I think. Like, decent shooting.
He's the only one that's made shots. Granted, he's taken a lot.
And also with a hurt shoulder.
Yeah, he's kind of been slight. Like, I don't know that he's back to full health. Like, he's not been the Paul George he was earlier in the year.
I'm also not sure Billy Donovan is working out.
He's not our guy. We
Nope.
need to get him out of there. Sam Presti needs to fire the correct person and get him out.
I never thought that we should have fired Scott Brooks. I thought he was great.
I don't know about that. Scott Brooks had his faults as well. He liked to play a little too much zone, for my opinion.
And it was harder to judge him because back when he was coaching, they had Westbrook and KD and Ibaka and Harden, all those guys.
I just feel like Westbrook's kind of a hard guy to coach. Very unpredictable.
Oh,
He's turned into more of a facilitator this season, but in years past, he's just kind of been a ball-dominant point guard. Difficult to facilitate much offense through a player like that.
All right, moving on. Let's go back to a game 1. Let's do the Detroit Pistons and Milwaukee Bucks, where the Bucks blew the Pistons out 121-86. What are your thoughts?
Giannis, let's move on.
All right, let's move on.
No, hold on. I have to talk about how bad the Pistons were. They've lost 12 straight postseason games. And they didn't have Blake Griffin. Granted, I don't think he could do much to stop Giannis anyway. But you're in the playoffs. You have to show up. You can't travel to Milwaukee and just stay at the hotel while the game's going on. No one had a ticket in that game, and it's just unbelievable.
Are we sure they made it to Milwaukee?
Maybe their plane had an unexpected landing. I don't know.
But one thing I will give the Pistons is the unexpected performances from Luke Kennard. He put up 21, and I think if he was playing like that earlier in the season, I think he could be a potential candidate for most improved player.
Yeah, but if Luke Kennard is your guy, you're not winning a playoff series. I'm sorry. But...
Yeah, but if Luke Kennard is outscoring Andre Drummond, if you're Andre Drummond, you can't get 12 and 12 in 26 minutes. We need you to be a 20 and 12 guy. But
Yep, it's difficult for an 8 seed to, overcome losing their best player for the first 2 games on the road against the MVP and best record in the league.
Yeah, I think we're sure Giannis is MVP after, especially that game 1, but game 2 as well.
And moving on to the game 2 between Denver and San Antonio. My Kentucky boys, I know you're thrilled to hear the Jamal Murray happening. 21 fourth quarter points. What are your thoughts on this?
He went off, and he went off in the best time that you can go off, and he definitely sealed the victory for the Nuggets.
Absolutely. Getting 21 points just after scoring 3 the entire first 3 quarters. That it's very promising to see that he can step up his game whenever it needs to be done.
Yeah, better late than never.
And one thing that I thought that was really good about the Nuggets is that they had 4 players that scored 20 points or more. And all 4 of those are starters, with Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, and Nikolai Jokic.
Yep. Nikolai Jokic almost had a trip dub with the 21-8-13 stat line. In 39 minutes, though, I feel like that's a little more underproduction for him, especially in playoff time, but it's nothing we can't expect. It's okay.
There's been a lot of blown leads so far in the first round. The Warriors, the Pacers, and the Spurs.
Yeah, there've been a lot of blown leads recently. I can't. One thing I've got to say about the Spurs though is DeMar DeRozan. He had 31 points in this game, and LaMarcus Aldridge. He also had a hot game. Derek White. But other than that, really, there wasn't much production by the Spurs.
Are all the players we make fun of just gonna make us look bad now?
Mm-hmm.
You made fun of DJ Augustine. I made fun of Derek White, and they both had great games.
Well, one thing I was right about was Jakob Pertl. Just another excuse to say his name, but he didn't have a hot game, so I'm proud of that.
Well, if that's the end of that series discussion, we'll move on to the Rockets and Jazz.
James Harden.
Yep, moving on.
What are our thoughts on the way the Jazz are playing defense, though? I mean, started putting Ricky Rubio behind the ball.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
That's smart. That's smart because he can't step back, and you force him to drive. And if you keep the 2 big men down low, you got to go up with them. So he's forced to pass out. You just have to rely everybody else has a bad shooting night.
Watching the Jazz, the first 2 games of the series, they just look brutal to watch. They're terrible. They look lost and sloppy. It's just not a good few games for them, I don't think.
One thing that I thought about the Jazz was the underperformance by Donovan Mitchell. He only had 11 points. And when you're the star player of your team and you play 37 minutes, you just can't be putting up 11 points in a playoff game, especially against James Harden.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. All right. One question I have for you guys before we move on to some baseball. Do you all think that you can now root for Zion now that he's not at Duke anymore?
I'll start rooting for Zion when the "what did he have for breakfast" comments go away.
I don't know if that day's coming, Noah.
when I could go into a comment section on any thread in any social media platform and not see his name, I'll root for him then.
I don't think that's ever going to happen because he's one of the most hyped up players in NBA history. Like I don't see it happen.
We'll see. I kind of want to, even though he's a Duke player, because he's just this freak of nature, and his athleticism, along with that huge body, it's just unheard of. And liking Duke players for me is really hard because they have that Duke stench on them, and it's just ugh. But yeah, maybe one day.
I can't deny the fact that he's talented. Nobody in this world can even deny the fact that he's talented. And it does give me some hope for the future of this league to think about the matchups he's going to have. I know it's an old LeBron, but him and LeBron, him and Giannis, him and Harden, like all these ideal matchups that everybody wants to see. I'm kind of behind that, and I'll root for that.
I agree with that. All right, guys, I think it's time to move on to some baseball. Let's kick it off with the Tampa Bay Rays being the only team in baseball that hasn't lost a series this year. What are your thoughts on that?
The opener strategy has definitely been working this year. Players like Yonny Chirinos are able to start in the second inning, start in the middle of the order. Pitchers that aren't able to go 3 times through the order are able to have the relief of the opener. And I definitely think it's an interesting strategy that more teams across the league might want to look into.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a great strategy because, it's definitely working out. They're leading the AL East by 5.5 games, and that gap is just going to increase more and more, in my opinion.
Well, apparently the AL East is very bad.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Anytime I hear the Tampa Bay Rays are leading the AL East, it's gonna be a weird year for baseball, and it has been. When you go onto the ESPN Power Rankings and you looked at the Mets were ranked fourth in their recent poll, it's kind of weird. It's definitely weird.
One thing about the Rays is that they have an ERA of 2.44, which I think is really good. And their starters at 1.47, which is just insane. And I think that they've been doing great recently.
Guys, I need to make amends real quick, if that's okay. I have to apologize to Chris Davis for jumping the gun with my Scott Schebler comments with him being the worst player in baseball. Right after I say that, Chris Davis of the Baltimore Orioles took the award from Scott Schebler. He broke the record for most at-bats in a row without a hit, dating back to September 14th. I think it was 54 straight at-bats, I think, before he finally got a hit. And none other than he got his first hit against Rick Porcello, who's not been good at all. Like a 4-year-old could hit a Rick Porcello pitch. Come on now. And then I don't know. The Red Sox pitchers, what a shame.
He took Evaldi yard. That's
yeah, and then he hit a dinger on Evaldi the next game.
So today's game between the Royals and the White Sox, Tim Anderson hit a dinger off Brad Keller, and he had an excessive bat flip after the fact. And then in Tim Anderson's next at-bat, he was intentionally beamed by Brad Keller, and both players ended up getting ejected, bench clearing brawl. Do you guys have any thoughts on
Yes.
kind of intentionally beating players?
Yes. Why are pitchers petty? Who cares if they bat flip? They went yard. They're going to be excited. Let them bat flip. Don't be a baby. Pitch better if you don't want them going yard on you.
It's more of a statement to strike them out than to put them on base, I think. But
yeah, you're just giving up another base.
The way
that
I
was
feel
extremely petty.
The way I feel is exactly how Chad feels. So it takes the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I'm not a Brad Keller fan after that.
He's not the only one that's done that. But...
Yeah, I agree. But I think it was just really petty.
One last thing about baseball before we move on are the Mariners. So they passed the 2002 Indians team for the longest season-opening home run streak in MLB history. The Indians' record was 14, and they made it all the way up to 19 games since the start of the season. And it ended tonight against the Indians. So pretty impressive streak, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Unfortunately, they've cooled off. They got shut out by Carlos Carrasco today, but they went 8-1 on their road stretch. Impressive. But yeah. Yeah,
one of those games, their home run streak games, they only had one run, and it was one solo home run. So whatever keeps the streak going, I guess. And now transitioning to our brand new segment from the Mailbag, where you, the listeners, can email us questions that you would like for us to answer on the podcast. And we announced it on our Instagram, and we've got a few already. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first one, Dear FTS Podcasters, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I've been listening for a while now. I would love if you could answer a question for me. Who do you believe is the dark horse contender in the NBA playoffs, and how far do you think the Spurs can make it?
As far as the Spurs go, I think they can make it out of the first round, honestly. I think that they could get past the Nuggets. Dark horse contender,
I want to go Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Only as far because Kenny Atkinson gets criminally underpunished coaching praise severely. You're taking a Brooklyn team that hadn't been to the playoffs since 2015, I believe, and taking them into Philly and splitting the series with them. If you're able to do that against a team with Joel, Jimmy, Ben, JJ, all these good people, you have a chance at doing something in the playoffs overall. And just the way they were ending their season on the role they've been and how well they're playing together and the team chemistry they're having with each other, it looks like they're a bunch of brothers on the court. I feel like they can absolutely get as far all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think my dark horse is going to be the Rockets. I think some people could have them winning, but what?
The Rockets are good.
Yeah, they're also like a 5 seed though.
They're fourth.
4 seed, but
they're right in the middle. Why is that?
My dark horse contender is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. Even though they're a 3 seed, a lot of people were sleeping on them coming into the postseason with the fact that they lost. What?
Apparently a 3 seed's allowed, but a 4 seed isn't.
It's not about the seed number. It's about
Go ahead. Talk about the Portland Trailblazers.
Start over, Devin. Start that over.
Nobody's picking.
No, I'm salty. Go ahead. I'm salty. Just know that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You done, Josh? You done? My dark horse contender is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. There was a low expectations coming into the postseason, considering the fact that they lost Nurkic with a broken leg, and McCollum was injured right before the playoffs started. So Dame really had to shoulder the load for the team, and a lot of people were picking the Thunder to actually pull the upset in the first round. But the way they've come out in games 1 and 2 for the first round, they definitely opened some eyes, especially for me. And I definitely think they could maybe advance to the conference finals.
All right, next question. Dear from the sidelines, who do you all think is the biggest surprise or takeaway from the first round of the playoffs?
I'm going to go with the Trailblazers. I think winning 2 games against the Thunder and winning by 20 points in game 2 is just a big step up for them after the previous years they've had in the playoffs, and I think that they've been the biggest surprise for me. What do you all think?
My storyline is going to be the Warriors losing to the Clippers. I think we all chalked that one up as a sweep, and then they had a 31-point lead and lost game 2 at home. So.
Yep, totally agree. I guess we have time for one more. Hey guys, I wanted to get your thoughts on Boogie Cousins tearing his quad. After tearing his Achilles, he signed a cheap 1-year deal with the Warriors in hopes of proving himself worthy of receiving a big contract next year. Since he got hurt yet again, what do you guys think about the future going forward for Cousins?
Well, when you're 7 foot tall and you put as much force onto your knees and ankles as Boogie Cousins does, coming down like a meteorite when he jumps, you got to take into effect how healthy you are overall to even go for a contract. If I am any NBA GM and after seeing this 1 year with him and the little time he did play, I'm not giving him anything more than $15 million. Nothing. And that's on a 3-year contract. I'm not doing that. He is too much of a liability, and he's starting to get up there in age as well. And you got to take these things into accountability.
Yeah, I wonder what Noah's thoughts on that are, given earlier in the podcast and just now. So, yeah.
Yeah, my thoughts on Boogie are very unedited. So let's just hope for the best for him, guys. Let's just hope for the best.
All right, and that concludes our debut segment from the mailbag. If you have any questions you would like to hear on the next time we run this segment, please email us at theftspod@gmail.com. And as always, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter at theftspod. Again, that's at theftspod. Again, join our Predict the Pick contest on NFL.com. The group name is From the Sidelines. Again, we'll tweet out the link so you can check our Twitter if you would like to join via Twitter. If you have any problems or have any questions while signing up for that, and please be sure to DM us or email us. And we hope you enjoyed the show.
For you listeners that can't see, Noah's trying to troll with Devin, trying to get him to mess up. So if you heard that laugh,
Bye. Have a great time.
Bye. Have a great
I
time.
have a great time.